So, as you said, your darkest moment in 2017, when all of this went down, one of the things that happened is you were no longer on the House of Cards for the last season. Let's go to the beginning of that show.
Okay.
One of the greatest TV series of all time. A dark, fascinating character in Frank Underwood, a ruthless, cunning, borderline evil politician. What are some interesting aspects to the process you went through for becoming Frank Underwood? Maybe Richard III, there's a lot of elements there in your performance that maybe inspired that character.
Well,
Is that fair or no?
I'll give you one very interesting specific education that I got in doing Richard III and closing that show at BAM in March of 2012, and 2 months later started shooting House of Cards. There is something called direct address. In Shakespeare, you have Hamlet talks to the world. But when Shakespeare wrote Richard III, it was the first time he created something called direct address, which is the character looks directly at each person close by. It is a different kind of sharing than when a character's doing a monologue, a opening of Henry IV. And while there are some people who believe that direct address was invented in Ferris Bueller, it wasn't. It was Shakespeare who invented it. So I had just had this experience every night in theaters all over the world, seeing how people reacted to becoming a co-conspirator, because that's what it's about. And what I tried to do, and what Fincher really helped me with in those beginning days, was how to look in that camera and imagine I was talking to my best friend.
Because you're sharing the secret of the darkness of how this game is played with that best friend.
Yeah, and there were many times when I suppose the writers thought I was crazy, where I would see a script and I would see like this moment where this direct address would happen. I'd say all this stuff and I'd go, when we do a read through of the script, I go, I don't think I need to say any of that. And they were like, what do you mean? I said, well, the audience knows all of that. All I have to do is look. They know exactly what's going on. I don't need to say a thing. Yeah. So I was often cutting dialogue because it just wasn't needed. Because that relationship that I'd learned, that I'd experienced doing Richard III was so extraordinary, where I literally watched people, they were like, oh, I'm in on the thing, and this is it's so awesome. And then suddenly, wait, he killed the kids. He killed those kids in the tower. Oh, maybe it's not so. And you literally would watch them start to reverse their having had such a great time with Richard III in the first, 3 acts. And I thought, this is going to happen in this show. If this intimacy can actually land, and I think there was some brilliant writing, and we always attempted to do it in one take. No matter how long something was, we would try to do it in one take, the direct addresses. So there was never a cut. When we went out on locations, we started to then find ways to cut it and make it slightly broader. But
that's interesting, because you're doing a bunch of, with both Richard III and Frank Underwood, a bunch of dark, borderline evil things. And then I guess the idea is you're going to be losing the audience, and then you win them back over with the addresses.
That's the remarkable thing, is against their instincts and their better sense of what they should and should not do, they still rallied around Frank Underwood.
And I saw even with the documentary, the glimmers of that with Richard III. I mean, you were seducing the audience. Like there was such a chemistry between you and the audience on stage.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
What is that?
in that production, that's absolutely true. Also, Richard is one of the weirder, weird, I mean by weird, it was an early play of Shakespeare's. And he's basically never off stage. I mean, I remember when we did the first run through, I had no idea what the next scene was. Every time I came off stage, I had no idea what was next. They literally had to drag me from one place to another. Say, now it's the scene with Hastings. Now it's this. But I now understand these wonderful stories that you can read in old books about Shakespeare's time, that actors grabbed Shakespeare around the cuff and punched him and threw him up against the wall and said, you ever write a part like this again, I'm going to kill you. And that's why in later plays, he started to have a pageant happened and then a wedding happened. And the main character was off stage resting because the actor had said, you can't do this to us. There's no breaks. And it's true. There's very few breaks in Richard III. You're on stage most of the time.